Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good to have you back here.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to get right into it.
Great.
A very personal question. When was the last time you checked the price of Bitcoin?
I can't help but see it because we have monitors all around the office where people look at it and they track the trends and all kinds of other stats about what's going on in the company. But I mean, the truth is I try not to focus on the price too much because I'm encouraging everyone in the company to think long term and not be worried about what's happening day to day with the price.
What was so there was another 15% price drop this week, which has become normal, but what was the atmosphere in the office like, let's say Wednesday when that happened versus 2 years ago or 3 years ago at the office, if that happened?
Yeah, I mean, actually I didn't hear anybody mention it. It didn't really get on my radar actually on Wednesday this week. I think the company has been through this period for so long now that crypto has gone through so many big run-ups and then there's a correction and then a big run-up and a correction. I think that's happened 5 times now. So we've just kind of come to accept that this business is going to be very cyclical and we're going to grow very deliberately and carefully through this, through all these ups and downs. Like I said earlier, I want everybody to have a long-term view. So I'm much more concerned about, how do we get crypto to be used by 1 billion people in 5 years than I am what the price did this week.
Is part of that you're now hiring employees that are kind of not die-hard crypto people because the pool of that is so small? Are you having to kind of expand into regular people?
Well, I mean, we certainly have a lot of crypto diehards at the company, but a lot of the people, we've added 300 people or so in the last 12 months. We're over 500 full-time now. And a lot of those people didn't come from crypto backgrounds, as you put it. I think this is a misconception. People think, oh, I need to be a crypto expert to even apply to Coinbase or something like that. And that's really not true. A lot of the people, they come to Coinbase to build their crypto career, and they really want to learn on the job. And we've been really fortunate to hire these amazing people from all these different big tech companies, LinkedIn, Facebook, Amazon, and from traditional financial services to come together and train them on the job about crypto. And I think that's been giving us a huge advantage.
I want to go back to kind of the bubble of late last year, Q4 last year. Insane kind of price rises, insane engagement on your platform. And at that point, there's hyper attention from the whole world. Forget about what people in your company think. You have CNN, CNBC, everyone talking about the price of Bitcoin on a daily basis. Is that good or bad for the industry?
I think it's good. I'll take it. I think sometimes the focus is a little bit misguided in the sense that, again, it's all about the price and the run-up. But so many people are being introduced to cryptocurrency that I think it's great marketing. It's certainly driven a ton of growth for Coinbase. So I don't mind that. I think managing during those periods is really interesting because sometimes it feels like the world is on fire and it's a stressful but fun environment, and then other times we're in rebuilding mode, and I've come to enjoy the rebuilding mode, meaning right size the organization by hiring new leadership and new employees. I've come to enjoy that more because in these kind of correction periods, a lot of the people who got into crypto for the wrong reasons or wanted to make a quick buck or something, they just sort of leave and they lose interest. And the people who are in it for the long term and want to just build good products and go talk to our customers, which is what I want the team to do, they stick around. So we actually get more work done during these kind of correction periods.
And you say now we're in one?
Yeah.
So before we talk about now, I still want to go back to the crazy kind of run-up. And you guys were having some operational issues, some customer service issues, just some extreme usage stats, I guess. What was the point where shit was hitting the fan the most? And I guess as the CEO with kind of nothing you can do about it that day, how do you feel?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had so many people sign up. I remember one day we had 40,000 people sign up, and I went to go look at the Giants Stadium in San Francisco holds about 40,000 people. And I looked at a photo of it, I was like, that's a lot of people. You kind of have to find a way to imagine those large numbers in your mind. And then I think a month later, 500,000 people signed up in one day. And so it was 10 Giants stadiums, in one day. So I remember one of the biggest challenges we had was just scaling customer support to keep up with all of these new people who are signing up and learning about crypto and trying to buy it. And one thing we did, we brought in like a really amazing leader who had scaled customer support at Twitter, and Tina Butnagar. So she joined and helped us scale that team really quickly. And I think we hired about 300 or 400 new customer support reps in about 1 quarter, just to meet that demand. So that was an incredible experience. I would say everybody in the company who went through that period, they would probably tell you it was stressful, but I also think they did some of the best work of their life, and just going through that experience kind of brought the team really close together.
And it seems like you guys came out of that with this insane hiring plan. You've hired at least like 10 C-suite or like VP level people, and the company's really matured in the last 6 months, I guess. Was there like a one-time like conscious decision where you and the board, or you sat down and said, okay, we need to bring in like experienced talent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I realized that, and the board realized it too. And so what I did was I started to write down, actually I wrote a Medium post, how to hire executives, and I wrote it because I wanted to learn it better myself and teach it to the current leadership team we had so we could scale out the recruiting of these people. And as we started to get, it was really flattering, the kind of caliber of executives that were willing to come talk to us. And what we did was, I pitched them on, hey, look, this is the mission of the company. We're trying to create an open financial system for the world, which will create all this innovation and efficiency and economic freedom. So we had this really ambitious mission. That was part one. Number two was we're only 1% of the way there. So only 40 million people in the world have crypto, but I think in a year or 5 years we can get to 1 billion people, and in 10 we can get to 4 billion people, roughly half the population. So just like the internet when it first started out, I mean, it had a long way to go to get to like half the world having internet access. Same thing is true for crypto. And then the last part was, you can own a meaningful piece of this company still because it's so small and it's early days. But we hired these people who were builders. They wanted to come in and grow organizations from the ground up. And some people really love that. It's a chance to define how that department or team or product is going to work. And instead of coming into a company where something is already at scale and just moving it incrementally, or having to shrink headcount or cut costs or something like that.
Presumably there were some people that worked for Coinbase doing all of these people's jobs before they got in, right? There was someone doing customer service, there was someone doing finance. How do you handle, even when you know it's the right decision, hiring over an early employee?
Yeah, well, luckily there was so much work to go around. It wasn't a matter of anybody, leaving as a result of these new people coming in. There was just, they all knew that they needed the help, and so here was some additional capacity. But one thing I talk to people about sometimes is, if you're in a company that's growing, 50% or 100% a year, you can take the people you have and they can really grow into that role, and it's an amazing outcome. If you have a company that's growing, 5x a year or something like that, there's almost nobody who can learn at that pace on the job. And in fact, you can bring in somebody really senior above them, and they still have a bunch more work to grow. So most people, if you give them that choice and you say, well, I know you want to learn on the job. Would you rather learn by being thrown into the fire, and you might die, by the way, or do you want to learn from having a great mentor? And there's a big gap between where you are and they are, and they can see that. Most people are very willing to do the second.
That's nice. Yeah. And you wrote a blog post recently about how someone at your company asked if you were a tech company or a finance company. Your answers were kind of a hybrid, which is great, but that doesn't solve the issue of like a hybrid culture. You have half, finance people and half tech people, and they're used to very different schedules and routines and snacks and stupid things like that, but it matters at the end of the day. So like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, well, so I would phrase it slightly differently. I said, are we a finance or a tech company? Yeah, if I had to pick one, we're a tech company, okay, because I think technology is the most powerful force in the world that's disrupting, improving things for the best. Although I have to say I would say we're a crypto company, which is something kind of new. And what I mean by that is, it's certainly technology. We need to be excellent at that, and we're on the cutting edge of a lot of this cryptography and everything that people are doing. At the same time, we can't move fast and break things, right? That doesn't work when you're handling people's money. And so we do have a really strong legal compliance function that comes in. And what I try to do is look for people who they're not people who just want to check the box or it's see the world in black and white. A lot of what we're doing it's in totally uncharted territory. There are no laws that are written about a certain area, and so we need people who can kind of help guide and shape legislation that's out there, come up with creative solutions that haven't been thought of before, and then go implement them as we trailblaze in this industry.
Let's talk about those laws for a bit.
Yeah.
So right now there's not a lot of regulation in the U.S. I hear like crypto fanatics say like, oh, next year we'll have great, thorough cryptocurrency laws, and I remind them that we're working off a Securities Act of 1933 or 1934, and we haven't had a new one since then, and we've altered it, of course. But like, what is your realistic timeline for thorough cryptocurrency regulation? And like, in your ideal point of view, what do you want that to look like?
Yeah, so I don't think there will ever be a moment where it's like, now we have cryptocurrency regulation, because cryptocurrency has now branched out to be so many things. It's money, it's potentially stocks or securities, it's commodity, it's property. And then that's just in the US. And of course, cryptocurrency is a global phenomenon. And so every country is looking at this in different ways. Now, I mean, that being said, today cryptocurrency is already a regulated industry in the United States. We have a BIT license. We're one of a few companies that has that out of New York. We're regulated as a money transmitter in many states. Now, I think the next piece in this progression that'll come down is probably some more clarity about what are these new tokens that are being created, which is this amazing new way companies are raising money, and it's potentially the next version of the entire stock market, right? I think in 5 years, most startups that are created will have some kind of, at least tech startups, will have some kind of token associated with it, because that's just how you move value around on the internet now. But I think there's a big open question about, are some of these securities or are they commodities? And I don't have an opinion about that. There's great regulators that we work with out in DC that are looking to answer this question. But certainly we do have a responsibility to be an educational resource to them and really try to work with them to help shape that regulation, even if we're not the ones coming up with the answer.
Got it. And you did acquire a broker-dealer recently, so you're at least moving towards steps towards maybe putting securities on the platform. Do you want to be one day like a platform where any of those tech companies that are doing some kind of tokenization can put their tokens on your platform?
Absolutely. So we did acquire a broker-dealer, and the reason is that we do feel a substantial subset of these tokens will be securities. Our approach has always been to be the most trusted, the easiest to use. So we want to be the legal compliant place where you can start to trade these tokens that are classified as securities. So I think that's certainly one of our goals, and I could imagine a future where companies come to Coinbase to issue their token and get in onto our exchange, where we have all this liquidity and people trading.
In terms of like adding new tokens, like you mentioned, well, not tokens, but any kind of cryptocurrency right now, you have, I think, 4 on Coinbase and 5 on Coinbase Pro. You have a pretty thorough, outline of how you're going to evaluate new ones and add them. But I still feel like even though you have that, there's kind of like maybe backed into a corner where everyone's watching for what you guys add next. Like, do you think that's a problem? And how do you move past it to where you can just add 100 and not have the price freak out and not have people watching like that?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly look forward to a day where we add a new asset to Coinbase and it's a non-event, and it almost just becomes routine and boring.
Will it get there?
It will get there, yeah, because I think there's going to be hundreds on the platform within years, and I think there could be millions someday. So it makes sense that any company out there who has a cap table, they should have their own token. Every open source project, every charity, potentially every fund, or these new types of decentralized organizations, these new types of decentralized apps, they're all going to have their own tokens. And so we want to be the bridge all over the world where people come and they take fiat currency and they can get it into these different cryptocurrencies.
And this exchange is kind of the core product right now, but you're experimenting, you're branching out, whether that's custody, whether that's wallet, Toshi, which is kind of like a project you really like, right? I guess the question is, how do you decide what new products to get into? And are you going to take like a Google bets approach, and if they fail, you make a bet, who cares? Or like an Apple methodical, like we're going to launch this and we really need it and want it to work out approach?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I mean, most people know Coinbase for our first product, which is the consumer app where you can trade crypto. We also have an exchange for professionals and institutions who trade crypto called Coinbase Pro. Then we've launched some new initiatives that are targeting more of the institutional space with custody and prime. And then we have a number of bets in the venture category, I call it, which are these newer bets. And a lot of that is about driving the utility phase of crypto. So a lot of, like 90% of crypto activity today is still in the investment phase, which is people putting money into it to try to make money. And I think that's the initial kind of gateway that's getting a lot of people into crypto, but the utility phase is going to be even bigger, which is people starting to use it for various types of goods and services in the economy. You know, one other way to look at this is that, you know, Web 1.0 was about publishing information. Web 2.0 was about interaction and, you know, messaging. Web 3.0 is going to be about value transfer on the internet, because now the web has this native currency, and so applications can be built that instantly tap into this global economy on the internet. And so you're seeing Coinbase become a multi-product company. Our early products were very successful at helping people just get fiat into crypto, whether you're retail or institution. And our newer products are really operating in that Web 3.0 decentralized sphere of helping people use crypto. So we have, you know, a merchant solution for crypto. We have the wallet that you mentioned. We have earn.com, where people can earn crypto by completing tasks and jobs. So we're thinking more and more about how to shift crypto from that investment phase to utility phase.
Got it. So that sounds like you have plans to kind of take over the industry, obviously. And I guess what I'm getting to is your mission statement is like building an open financial system for the world. And you guys actually define that as not controlled by one company or one country. How do you balance like that mission with the fact that you want to build the biggest company possible, and you have stakeholders, shareholders, employees that, you know, want to build a big company?
Yeah. Well, I think you know, every company, it helps to have resources so that you can go accomplish your mission. And so I think of a lot of our early bets are, you know, we need to make sure they have a business model so we can make them sustainable and excellent, and then use the proceeds of that to invest in the next phases that'll help us reach our mission. So I don't know, for me, I think my approach to entrepreneurship and business has always been, don't try to think of something that'll make money. Try to think of something that's useful, that people want, and the money part will kind of take care of itself. So, you know, the other thing is that creating an open financial system for the world is such a empowering and ambitious goal that I think there's going to be a whole bunch of things that are going to happen to get there, and a lot of opportunities. So I don't know, I'm less concerned about the short term there. I think maybe it's easy for us to say that because our early products were so successful, but that's a little bit how I think of it.
Got it. Let's talk about the money part for a bit, because we're at Disrupt, and that's what everyone wants to hear. You've raised about, I guess, $225 million about, which is not a ton compared to how big you are, and you're generating a lot of revenue. I think $1 billion was the estimate for last year. Are you guys self-sustaining? Do you have any plans to take on more capital? What's the game plan there?
Well, you're right that we are self-sustaining. You know, we've been profitable for quite a while. We don't have any plans to raise additional capital at this point, but never say never. You know, obviously, like someday I'd love to run a public company, right? And that would be another type of fundraising.
Are you looking at my questions? That's next.
Great. I read your mind. No, I mean, someday I think that would be great to get to, and you know, I wouldn't rule out doing, you know, going public on the blockchain or something. We have
also my next question.
Okay, good.
So tell me, like, the roadmap to going public. When do you think it would happen, and what needs to be done? What check marks need to be checked before you do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I like the idea of operating the company while it's private with the rigor of a public company, and so, you know, we're making strides to get there. But I don't have any timeline to share. We'd want the option to be able to do it, but not necessarily have to go and do it. It depends on if everything is right.
Got it. And then talk about the blockchain part, I guess. Would you kind of like, I don't know if it's practicing what you preach, or like, would you go public on yourself if you could one day? I know that's way in the future.
Yeah.
More traditional.
Well, I think it would be very on mission for us to do that because, of course, creating an open financial...
On mission, not on mission.
On mission.
Very on mission.
Yeah. To you know, an open financial system would involve companies that could list their stock, which is really tokens. You know, instead of a cap table, you tokenize the cap table. But I don't have any decisions on that or anything to share at the moment.
Got it. Last question, I guess. What product are you most excited for that's coming out soon? I know Wallet is kind of like is it like a baby of yours, or am I just saying that? Yeah,
Wallet has been an awesome project. You know, it's tough to pick your favorite children, but that's certainly a good one because, you know, Coinbase Wallet is really a browser for the decentralized web. These dApps are new types of applications that people are using. And it's this very new space, but it's a totally new way to build applications on the internet that has value as a native part of it. And there's, Coinbase Wallet is a great way to access that and see some of like the really new stuff that's being created.
Got it. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.